Greetings and salutations. My name is OJ as always, and welcome back to another episode of the DBDathon, a series of videos where I go over every single killer in Dead by Daylight, from Trapper all the way to the recently, well, not so recently, that was recently released in one word, recently released Springtrap. I go over their lore, aka just reading their in-game bio, their gameplay and power, their teachable perks, as well as their design, my favourite and least favourite cosmetics, and in general just what I think of them. And today's object of obsession is none other than Elliot Spencer, also known as Pinhead, also known as the Cenobite. Now, usually with these videos I like to start off by talking about lore, but just like many other licensed killers, Pinhead doesn't really have any lore to speak of. He has a simple description saying that he is a demon to some and an angel to others, and he has the box, and that he managed to come into the realm through someone else opening the box. It's nothing special. It's actually like one paragraph, which I said in the Nemesis video is kind of annoying because characters like, say, Alan Wake or other licensed survivors get long sort of descriptions and tales of why they're here and what they're here for, etc. Whilst killers usually just get a recap of whatever film they're from and they just call it a day there and then. But that gives me a chance to talk about my connections to Pinhead as well as the Hellraiser franchise as a whole. It doesn't really exist. Sorry to disappoint, Pinhead has always been one of those middle-of-the-road horror icons for me. I've never been particularly super interested in him, and although I think his design is cool, and he is obviously a horror icon, don't get me wrong, I've never really been a Pinhead fan, per se. I just feel very indifferent to him, which is kind of rare for a licensed killer. It's usually I like them a lot or I dislike them a lot, but Pinhead's always just kind of been there. He's just kind of there. He exists. I like the kind of idea that he's, as it says in his lore mini description, a demon to some, an angel to others. I like the dichotomy that he brings between pain and pleasure. I think that's a cool idea, but I don't know. I've never really been super duper interested in him outside of like design wise. I think his design is very fantastic, but that shall be saved for later, right? But yeah, in terms of lore, we have no lore, and in terms of connections to him, we have no connections. Closest thing you'll get is me watching the dead meat kill counts on, the Hellraiser films. That's about as much exposure to him as I have with actually most of the horror film icons, because here's a fun fact. I don't really watch film. I don't really watch TV either. Video games are basically all I do and exist for, as sad as that may sound to some. But anyways, with that said, let us move on to his gameplay and power in a far quicker fashion than usual. Now, in my opinion, I would like to believe that Pinhead is probably the second hardest killer to play in the entire game. I feel like he sits in a little special room with Nurse as some of the hardest killers to play. And I say Nurse because Nurse is actually really hard to play when you think about it, and a lot of the skills that you'll learn whilst playing as Nurse do not apply to other killers, and Pinhead is kind of in a similar vein. His power has multiple sections to it, the first of which being the actually active ability, where he can create a gateway away from him, and once, releasing the gateway, he can possess it, so he'll enter like a first-person view of the gateway. From that first-person view, he can shoot out a chain that he controls with, by the way, incredibly janky. It feels really janky. Like, it feels like I'm trying to control a tank. Those chains have no good reason to be as hard as they are to control. But either way, if you manage to land that chain that you like first-person fly around, the survivor will be attacked by 3 chains that bind them, slowing down their movement speed by a certain amount depending on how many chains are actually attached to them at the same time. They are also unable to run and are unable to actually access the exit gates, funny enough. I didn't know that until I was reading his perk or his power description. Either way, when survivors are bound by these chains, they are allowed to break free of them one at a time, and they are also broken upon colliding with the environment, but that will spawn a replacement chain that attempts to bind the survivor again. They can also be broken by colliding with other players, but that one will not spawn a replacement chain. His actual active power is relatively strong, pretty okay. With the amount of skill it requires to use it, right? Or use it well. Yeah, right, well, you know what I mean. The amount of effort it requires to use well, I don't feel like the reward is really similar in vein to, say, Nurse. I mean, Nurse breaks every rule that the game has ever had, right? Loops aren't a problem for her. She can just teleport through them and end a chase whenever she feels like it. You're playing on her terms, not your own. But Pinhead still kind of has to play by your terms, as a survivor, I mean. And, I don't know, the chains can be strong, but they mostly get really, really... He mostly gets most of his oppressive strength, at least in my experience and in my opinion, because that's what these videos are, personal pieces on how I feel about each of the killers. Most of it comes from the lament configuration. Around the map, in a random location, a box, the box, will spawn and slowly will charge up what is known as a chain hunt. The aura of the lament configuration is revealed to survivors in white at all time, you know what I mean, and changes to yellow during an active chain hunt. Survivors can pick up the box and will suffer from Oblivious, and will also be allowed to, like, solve it. Yeah, they can, like, they'll be attacked by a chain hunt whilst they hold it, and they can't be dropped, meaning you do have to solve it for it to be, you know, removed from their possession, right? But if they solve it, then it gets rid of the chain hunt and or prevents it from ever happening. If Pinhead either finds the box himself or downs a survivor with said box, he will then activate the lament configuration and start a chain hunt. The chain hunt will last over I was about to say 90 seconds, that's how long it takes to charge. It takes 90 seconds to charge. And during a chain hunt, survivors are repeatedly targeted by chains spawning from the nearby gateways, akin to as if they've been attacked by his little gateway things. Either way, they'll just be consistently attacked by chains until someone solves the box. Like, simple as that. It is quite oppressive once a chain hunt starts going, because you're just consistently being attacked by like, even if you're not in chase with Pinhead and not being actively slowed down, even when you say you're just sitting on a gen, the chains are still going to come and, like, nab you. They're still going to, like, try and yank you off the gen. Like, it prevents you from really doing anything and heavily encourages you to actually, you know, pay attention to the box, go open the box. And also, I forgot to mention that when a survivor is, like, solving the box, Pinhead will get a very loud noise notification and have, like, this blue flashing effect around the screen. And if he so wishes it, he can teleport to the person opening the box. And then I believe that the box will get, like, disappear. Like, I swear, because whenever you teleport to someone who has the box just disappears out of their hands. I don't know if that's actually how it works, but hey ho, I can't find any information on it on the page that I'm looking at. Yeah, once you've teleported, he'll say the funny line, "You open the box, I came." Really funny. Absolutely hilarious. It's funny the 50th time, trust me. Yeah, he can teleport to them, which obviously helps, you know, get chases, get downs, I suppose. Either way, I think his power as a whole is pretty fine. It's very difficult to use correctly. A great Pinhead is miles beyond a good Pinhead. And a good Pinhead is miles beyond a bad one. Like, there is a very, very high skill ceiling to him. However, the reward for achieving that skill ceiling, I don't know if it's really worth it. I feel like you can put the time and effort into learning Pinhead into someone else and probably receive a similar benefit. I don't remember if this is true. I could be chatting out of my arse, as they say. But I swear there was a video that I watched where Otz, you know, the funny DeadByDaylight guy, like, is he the biggest DeadByDaylight YouTuber? I think he is. He said that Pinhead was like a perfect beginner killer because you could learn everything you need to know just by playing him. And that might be true, but I've never really seen it that way myself. I feel like he is very complex for a new killer, and I feel like he's probably someone, like, people should work towards instead of being their first killer. Like, I don't know, play some Trapper, don't play Trapper, play some Wraith, or play some, I don't know, Huntress. Like, killers who have a lower skill ceiling, or lower skill floor, I mean. Like, the skill floor for Huntress and Wraith is much lower than Pinhead's. You'll see much more, like, what do you call it? Blah blah blah, what word am I looking for? Much more, wow, words are really difficult. Influence on a game? I don't know, I lost the word that I was looking for. Anyways, you get what I mean. You're probably gonna do better if you start off with someone easier and work your way up to something difficult. Throwing yourself in the deep end first never really usually works, at least in my experience, right? And whilst we're talking about his gameplay, let's talk about an elephant in the room. He's not in the game no more. So all of that about, play Pinhead first, he's not in the game anymore. They took him out. You cannot, as of current, of when I'm making this video, purchase Pinhead or play him in any way, shape or form if you do not already own him. And as we found out a couple of days ago, we now know the reason why. They are making a Hellraiser game. This game's not going to last 2 minutes. Jesus Christ. Okay, look. I'm sure if you've played Dead by Daylight, you know about the Dead by Daylight killers, which pop up every couple of months, right? The Texas Chainsaw Massacre game was probably a really good example. I saw some people parading around that it'll be the killer of Dead by Daylight, or give it some proper competition. Where is it now? Aren't its servers ending in a couple months? Oh, yeah. Oh, they might already be ended. I'm not sure. Yeah, the game's not looking very good right now, is it? However, at least they had the courtesy not to take Leatherface away from the game with them when they made it. Now we're getting a Hellraiser game, which probably will suffer the similar fate, maybe be popular for about 2 months, and then fall off and lose all support in 10. And what would we have to show for it? Pinhead being removed from the game. That sucks. That sucks for anyone that likes him. I mean, if you like him enough, you would probably go play the Hellraiser game, but it's like, why? Why would you release a game? The game's, the survival horror. Sorry, I finished Signalis yesterday. That's survival horror is like the first thing that keeps coming to my mind. What's it called? Asymmetrical multiplayer horror game. Like every time that a new one of those comes out, they just die off. The only one that ever had like 2 feet to stand on was Friday the 13th, because it was one of the few licenses that wasn't already in Dead by Daylight, and it was a really good game on its own for 2 feet. It's really fantastic. It probably could have kept going if it weren't for the lawsuit that stuck Jason in like eternal hell for 7-8 years in a row, right? But like, Texas Chainsaw Massacre game didn't go anywhere. There was the Killer Clowns from Outer Space game. Why on earth that was charged at 30 quid, I don't know. And now we're getting a Hellraiser game. I'm sure this will probably suffer a similar fate, where people play it for a bit and then no one ever plays it ever again. And then Pinhead shall come crawling back to Dead by Daylight. But that's me being pessimistic, and also noticing patterns that have been around since, Dead by Daylight actually came out. Even something that had its own popularity, as one of my friends does like this game, VHS. That game also eventually ended service after a while, even though I've been told that it was also, in its own right, very good. But yeah, it's hilarious that they've removed Pinhead from Dead by Daylight so he can have his own game, and give it 12 months, he'll probably come crawling back into the game. Not in a similar vein to how Demogorgon was just gone, but you get what I mean. Anyways, with that said, let us move on to his teachable perks, which, because of his removal, actually have 2 names. I'll tell you both of them when we get there. The first of said perks is known as Deadlock, or by its new name, that being No Holds Barred. What a terrible replacement name, that sucks. Anyways, its description reads as such. You induce mental suffering by crushing any hope of escape. After a generator is repaired, the entity blocks the generator with the most progress for 15, 20 or 25 seconds, depending on perk level. You see its white aura during this time, with flavor text reading, "Nobody escapes us," a quote from Pinhead. Yeah, this is one of the best perks in the game. It's a gen regression perk, or it's a gen blocking perk. Are we surprised? It prevents gen rushing, per se, because, well, not gen rushing, like, say a couple survivors split up, right? They go do 2 gens at the same time. Whoever pops one first, the other one's going to get blocked, meaning that you know that that one probably has enough progress to be worth checking out. It's another perk that blocks gens or regresses them in some way, shape or form, slows down the game in some way, shape or form, that is entirely out of your hands. It is a passive perk that will just benefit you no matter what you do. You could play like the worst killer you've ever played as in the entire life of you being playing Dead by Daylight, and this perk's still going to give you some sort of benefit because it blocks the generator with the most progression after another one's been completed. It's one of the best perks in the game. It's used by a lot of people alongside other gen blocking perks like, I don't know, Grim Embrace or Dead Man Switch. And yeah, it's just a really, really fantastic perk. What else can be said about it that hasn't already been said by hundreds of people before me? But that's the whole point of it. It's my personal opinions. Anyways, with that said, let's move on to his second perk. Said second perk is known as Hex Plaything, or as its name is now, Hex Fortune's Fool. That is a name. Wow, these are downgrades 2 for 2 right now. Anyways, its description reads as such. A hex that toys with a victim's suffering. The first time you hook a survivor, they become cursed, and Hex Plaything activates on a dull totem. The cursed survivor suffers from the Oblivious status effect until the Hex totem is cleansed. Hex Plaything's totem's aura is revealed to the cursed survivor when within 24, 20 or 16 meters of it. For the first 90 seconds, only the cursed survivor can cleanse the totem. Oblivious prevents survivors from hearing or being affected by the killer terror radius. It also has flavor text reading, "We came, now you must come with us, taste our pleasures." Another quote from the Pinhead, as you can tell from my horrible imitation of him. Or imitation? Yeah, let's go with imitation. This perk is a personal favourite of mine. I've always enjoyed jump scaring, and as I've said in many, many previous videos, any perk that allows me to jump scare or be really, really fast is usually going to rise up through the ranks on a personal list of mine. And this is one such perk, as, shocker, it's actually quite a passive perk and provides the passive jump scare benefit. All you have to do is hook the survivor, and then bang, they don't know where you are. They can't hear your terror radius. Though obviously they could always cleanse the totem, and most of them do. But that's where the kicker comes in. By having all of these survivors, like cleansing totems so they're not oblivious, guess what that opens the door to? Hex Pentimento, which we'll actually be able to discuss in the next video. But yeah, those two perks together are really good because they'll be cleansing a bunch of totems for Plaything, and then you can go ahead and just rebuild them with Pentimento. I did actually have one game, it's not in this video, but I actually did manage to get all 5 Pentimentos. I have never been able to do that before, and that was a very, very good feeling. And that was solely because Hex Plaything had made them cleanse 4 different totems. But yeah, this is a pretty good perk. I enjoy it quite a lot myself. And with that said, let's move on to his third perk. Said third perk is Scourge Hook, Gift of Pain, with its new name being Scourge Hook, Weeping Wounds. That one's not that bad. That one's actually okay. So 1 out of the 3 of them is good. Anyways, I would also like to mention this is technically the first Scourge Hook perk ever created. I know we discussed Hangman's Trick in the Pigs video, but that was turned into a Scourge Hook perk retroactively. And as I'm sure most of you know, Scourge Hooks are hooks that show up in white, and there's usually 4 of them on a map, unless you're running that Houndmaster perk that lets you make more. Anyways, Gift of Pain's description reads as such. You are the bringer of sweet pain. At the start of a trial, 4 random hooks are changed into Scourge Hooks. You see their auras in white. When a survivor is unhooked from a Scourge Hook, they suffer from the hemorrhage and mangled status effects for 90 seconds. The first time the survivor is healed, they suffer a 10, 13 or 16% speed penalty to healing and repairing actions until injured again. Hemorrhage regresses healing progress when not healing and increases blood trails left by injured survivors. Mangled increases the time to heal by 25% and lasts for a set duration or until fully healed. It has flavor text reading, "Will tear your soul apart." Another quote from Pinhead. This perk is also pretty good. I would argue that Pinhead has probably maybe the second best perk lineup in the whole game. Maybe. It's very close. It's him or the killer we'll talk about in next video, that being the artist. This perk is itself quite good. It's also gained a lot of benefit as of late because of that Houndmaster perk I said about. Because by creating new Scourge Hooks, by placing survivors on normal hooks, that opens the doors to this perk actually having more uses. Because there will be more Scourge Hooks to place survivors on, meaning they'll be hemorrhaged and mangled more often. It's a pretty decent perk. I see no issue with it. It's also quite good on like not M1 killers like the other ones, M2 special attack killers, because they can now, because obviously they wouldn't be usually running Sloppy Butcher, which does a similar thing to this, but off of basic attacks. So this is actually an easy way for those killers to, you know, gain the ability to hemorrhage and mangle. It's good on, say, like, I don't know, Huntress, any ranged killer. Well, besides Deathslinger, because he does use basic attacks during his ranged attack. But anyways, it's a pretty good perk, and yeah, I think Pinhead probably has one of the best perk line. He's easily top 3. He's easily got the top 3 best perk lineups of all time. Unless they, I don't know, they nerf Deadlock again and it's now 20 seconds blocked, and then it's just like, okay, we get it, man. 25 seconds is good. That's a good point. At least it's not 30 anymore, right? It used to be 30, right? Yeah, it did. I did just check. Anyways, with that said, let's move on to his design, as well as my... See, okay, we can't do least and most favourite cosmetics, because here's a fun fact. I never actually got footage for the Chatterer, so I only have one skin to show. I mean, I can obviously, like, throw up an image of him, but I don't like... Spoiler alert, I don't like any of his skins. So, yeah. Anyways, let's move on to the final section of the video, right? Now, as is usual for these licensed killer review videos, or not review videos, licensed killer videos, all of my props go to the original designers for their actual in-game designs, as obviously they're the ones that originally designed them. DeadByDaylight didn't design Pinhead. I don't know who designed Pinhead, but it weren't DeadByDaylight, I can tell you that much. With that said, Pinhead's base design is pretty great. As I mentioned earlier, or alluded to earlier, I do think his design is iconic. It's different. It doesn't look normal, right? It's a dude who is sickly pale, deathly pale even. He is actually whiter than me, which is quite the feat. And yeah, let's get to let's hit some nails on the head. He's got pins in his head. He has pins in his head. That's quite a striking design choice. It makes him stand out. I'm also quite fond of the fact that his eyes are just black. Like, they're just black voids. I think that's quite creepy. And I would be remiss if I didn't mention the fact that he has, like, weird piercings in his nipples, across his chest, I suppose. And he's got that thing on, like, his belly button that has a saw hanging from it. It's obviously designed to make you feel uncomfortable, but there is obviously a sort of element of allure to him, because that's the idea with him, pain and pleasure. So he's wearing, you know, like a leather... Is it leather? I think it's leather. I think it's like a leather coat. And yeah, it's obviously striking, and there's a reason why his design is as iconic as it is. But again, as I said in the beginning of the video, I don't particularly have too much of an attachment to him. So, unlike Nemesis, I'm not going to go on a big old rant. Well, no, I won't be like praising him to the high heavens, right? I don't have too much of an attachment to Pinhead, and you might notice that from the way I kind of delivered the beginning of the video. Anyways, I'm actually just blabbering on and saying nothing. So, let's move on to my favourite cosmetic. Yeah, I don't usually I'd read out the rules of, like, saying, oh, when it comes to deciding my favorite and least favorites, I only own one skin. I don't like the Chatterer. He kind of just looks a bit boring to me. I mean, obviously the chattering teeth is quite, you know, quite a statement. It's quite, how would I put it, visually appealing. It's unique, I'll give it that. But literally the only cosmetic I have is the one you're seeing on screen right now, which is Hell Priest. And this one is, you know, pretty decent. Looks a bit less kinky, but kind of more kinky at the same time. I don't know how to put it. He's got a lot of belts on him, like literally belts across. There's 4 belts across his chest, 2 around his sides, 2 around his top. He's got a lot of spikes on him, on his hands and his shoulders. It looks, you know, it looks pretty cool. He's got some metal thingies. I will admit, the reason that I do like this skin a lot is because of the back. The back just being flayed wide open with a hook just hanging from it. It looks really, really cool. That's usually the best part of it. And it is, obviously, as you know, I'm quite fond of things that are kind of gross or aquatic or nature themed. I'm fond of a lot of things, but yeah, this is gross. The back detail is absolutely gross, and I do like it a lot. But with that said, we are at the end of the video already. I say that, but it's been near 24 minutes since I started recording this. Yeah, Pinhead, he's not in the game anymore, and they're deciding to make their own game out of him. I'm sure that's going to go very, very well, right? Right, guys? You believe in him. Yeah, I know it's pessimistic to say all that, but I don't have much faith in a licensed asim horror game that is only one license. That's why Dead by Daylight has stuck around so long. They are constantly adding new licenses in some way, shape or form. Even if it's not actual chapters, we still get stuff like The Witcher as a cosmetic set, which was really cool, by the way. I'm very fond of the Leshen artist skin. And speaking of her, yeah, this is the end of the video, so no, I'm going to continue talking about the asim horror thing. Making a asim horror game on one license, you are doomed to fail, I feel. The Ash vs Evil Dead game, doomed to fail, and it did. Unfortunately, I do think that could have had potential. This, the Texas Chainsaw Massacre game, doomed to fail. Bang, where is it now? Dead in the ditch. The Killer Clowns from Outer Space game, bang, gone. And I'm sure the Hellraiser game will follow suit in, I'll give it a year. Sorry to be pessimistic, and I apologise if any of those developers somehow stumble upon this video to see me complaining, but hey ho, it's the internet. I suppose you may have to deal with criticism every once in a while. Though it's not criticism, I just don't have faith in it, which, yeah, a bit pessimistic, but what can you do? You see a pattern and you recognise it, then you kind of just believe that the next thing in that pattern will follow the pattern, right? But anyways, with that said, I hope you have a good evening, afternoon, morning, etc. Like, comment and subscribe if you feel so inclined, and the next video will be on a woman that I've mentioned more than a few times in this video, the artist.